All right, team. So this is going to be the fun part. We're actually going to walk through the entire operating system. I'm going to do a very thorough job. It's pretty comprehensive. There's a lot of databases inside of databases inside of databases to make this a truly functioning and functional operating system built on Notion, which again makes it super flexible and also affordable. But there's a lot, right? There's a lot going on. I mean, we're probably going to take upwards of an hour or so to cover everything. And to start, I figured we might as well pull back the curtain and actually share like where this came from, right? I don't want you to sit here and listen for an hour to something and be like, what is this even about? Is this even functional? Is this even like a real thing that's valuable? And how do I even know that this works? Or am I wasting my time, right? So our team, right? You probably may know this, you may not know this, depending on how involved you are in the ecosystem. But, right, we definitely build, buy, and sell simple, profitable businesses. Now, I also have another advisory firm, another investment firm called Blue Collar Capital. And going back like pre-COVID era, and then heavily into the COVID era, we shifted from, right? So we historically buy boring businesses in real estate. And what we started to do was position more of like an advisory opportunity where we came in as a management company and we would work with middle market companies, right? So companies that are 8 figures trending 9, right? And they're ready to, most of them were founder led organizations, and they were ready to make a shift, right? And potentially get into some sort of liquidity event, etc. Most companies across the board all share the same problems. At least in our observations, that's what we found. And that's what we're trying to solve for early and often with our operating system, right? Most companies, especially founder-led organizations and growth organizations, are very disorganized, right? Like there's a lot of fires, there's a lot of moving parts. Eyes are definitely more often than not on revenue, less on operations. Like for all of these reasons and probably more, it's perfectly understandable why most organizations do not have their ducks in an order, right? They don't have their SHIT together. And when it comes time to potentially shift from owning a business to then owning an asset, right? And maybe looking at taking on investment or maybe selling and exiting, it becomes like a pretty tall task to then organize the organization and get it ready, right? Get it ready to be marketable. So what we would do, and at the time I again was doing this through our brand Blue Collar Capital, we would come in and there was an actual process that we followed. This is the checklist that we would use. And this is literally our deal checklist. This is our process checklist. We would come into an organization, mostly founder led. We would position ourselves as a management company. We would help them organize. We'd put together an operating system, a business operating system. We'd optimize the company for profitability. And the byproduct would ultimately be handbooks, a 100-day handbook, which would really be like an optimization handbook for growth or profitability, like what we intend to do, right? We'd have an operator handbook, which would be whoever's running the company. We would have a management handbook, which would be what we are responsible for. We'd have a shareholder or an owner handbook, which is what they would become responsible for. And we would ultimately become this management company that would help kind of professionalize, in a sense, the operations of this organization and shift it from this business that they were consumed in to an asset in which they owned and got paid for or paid by, right? So huge value proposition and a ton of value created. And after doing it, right, we started with these checklists. And then the next thing you know, we started to document our processes and it became a playbook, right? Literally a 50-page playbook that goes through the what, right? The why, the what, the who, the how, the when of pretty much everything that we would do when we would get inside of an organization. The stakeholders are involved, like literally, quite literally the playbook to do these turnarounds. I mean, we say turnarounds, they weren't all turnarounds, right? But for the most part, we were optimizing the companies for profitability. We were putting an operating system in place so that there's more predictability into the organization, less risk, right? And because of that, again, it shifted it from being a business to then an asset. And what it really did is turned it into an asset class that investors become interested in, right? Because investors, when you're looking at the market, looking at folks that are trying to buy companies or invest in companies, what we're really doing, right? Because this is what we do as well at Bootstrapper Capital. We buy simple, profitable businesses. What we're really trying to do is buy assets. And assets, like investors put their money into asset classes, right? And by systematizing an organization, what you're really doing is creating an asset class of a privately held company, right? It reduces risk. It makes it more appealing. It makes it more predictable. It's not somebody buying a job where they have to work in a business. It's someplace that they could put capital and then receive a passive income, right? A return on investment from. So it's big. That's a huge leap. And it's definitely something I want to over communicate because that's what we're going to be doing here by implementing this operating system inside of your business. And the thing that we observed through this entire journey is the same stuff that happens at $100 million businesses is the same stuff that happens at a 5 or 6 figure business, right? And the difference is accessibility to the information, the opportunity, right? The outcomes. And what we're trying to do here is bring what we were doing at larger organizations, 8, 9 figure companies, and we want to shift it down and make it more accessible to folks that are maybe just getting started as investpreneurs, just building your first 5 figure business, or folks that have it going and you're at 6 or 7 figures and you're trying to maybe either figure out how to scale more pleasantly, right? Simply, or maybe you're selling, maybe you're looking to position an exit or some other growth goal or growth initiative, right? Maybe you want to pull more passive income out of your business and turn it into more of a lifestyle asset. Those are all perfectly okay things. And what we want to do is bring it down market in our approach where we can help more folks, work with more folks. And as a byproduct, selfishly, right? Because it's like be selfish to be selfless to be selfishest. Selfishly, we did this because we wanted to go out and make money, right? So first we were advising companies. We're also always buying companies. And this stuff always made our companies more appealing because it made it easier for us to operate. We could put an operator into a company if there's an operating system. We could produce more profitable, predictable profitability. And it also converted it into an asset, which again, we can then go back out and market. And we have the ability to make wedge equity because we've been able to improve the quality of the asset that we're selling or marketing, right? So it's like a very great way for us to flip companies. And then also obviously selfishly on the advisory side, I just talked through to make, good advisory money working with these organizations as a management firm. Selfishly, we did this for ourselves. Selfless, right? We want to give it to more folks, right? For all of the right reasons so that you can implement it for those reasons inside of your business and we could be a part of that journey. So selfishly, maybe one day we are in the position where we acquire you. And if we do acquire you, you've already adopted our infrastructure. You've done a lot of the hard work, the heavy lift, and our deal could be easier, simpler, and more profitable for everybody because of it, right? So there's layers to it for sure, but hopefully for all of the right reasons, we're doing this together and we're going to get this done. So first things first is you are in the operating system, right? You got to the operating system either through an email with a link that linked you to it, or you went to the community and you were able to download it from the resources section where all of our products are listed, right? At this point, you're now in the operating system. If you're in one of the live workshops, you'll also be able to get a quick link to it, from the Zoom. Otherwise, you can link to it from this video. Right below this video, it means that you're in the actual blueprint walking through this recorded and of the boot camp, and we'll link to it there. So all of these different places get you here. I'll give you a couple of seconds. You could always pause this for a second. Get into it. Now that you're into it, you're not going to see it on mine because I'm already in a active database. But on yours, you're in the share link, and the share link then allows you right where this make a duplicate section is to scroll up, and you can duplicate. When you do that, what you're doing is you're now launching an instance in Notion. You're duplicating the entire operating system, and you're going to add it to your own account. And the cool thing about this is it's all leveraged through Notion, and you can do it with a free Notion account, which is super cool. We're very excited about that. That makes it super affordable, bootstrapper friendly, important to us. All of the things that we're trying to do for the right reasons. So now that you've done that, you're in your Notion. This is now your operating system. I actually went ahead and did that for this. This is actually no longer the Simple Profits operator. This is actually the Bootstrapper Capital Business OS, right? So you can go ahead and change things here, right? Put your company name. You can type things, edit it. Anywhere where you see one of these little toggles, that's something that I've added as a note, or somebody from our team has added as a note. We want to give you as much tips, tricks, and advice throughout this as possible. So look out for those toggles, and throughout the entire OS, it kind of is like hints, like cheat codes, right? So definitely take some time and read these things, right? Now you're in your OS. This is your OS. This is going to be your standard view. Pretty much everything that is inside of the operating system can quickly be found on this main page. But then each of these dashboards, right, is different. And what we try to do is we, again, followed very much so. When we built this, we took our standing checklist, and then we followed our playbook, and we literally went through how we optimize organizations, how we optimize companies, how we install these business systems, right? That ultimately lead us with clear financials and forecasts and budgets, a common language, right? Vision, mission, purpose, right? Customer journeys, right? Goal setting, processes, KPIs, roles, responsibilities, constraint management, right? All of these things that lead us to simple, profitable outcomes inside of a business. We followed our exact how, which again, you get access to this playbook as well. We followed it directly, and the byproduct became, not of my own accord because it's above my pay grade, but through the work of a lot of folks, we were able to create this operating system inside of Notion, right? So this is purpose built. This is intentionally built to be able to follow how we set up systems and optimize companies, and how we've done it at a very high level for a very long period of time, right? So you'll notice it's organize, strategize, standardize, optimize. Those are the same things that mirror inside of the playbook. The first thing I want to do is highlight the company dashboard, right? So when we're in the operating system, every single one of those links out to a dynamic application, a database. And each database, each one of these links, each one of these pages is intentional and purpose built. The one I just clicked on is the company dashboard. And the cool thing about the company dashboard, I love it, I dig it a ton, is you have all your quick navigation here, right? So it's pretty easy for me to just come to this one company dashboard every day, see what I need to do, right? Because I get a kind of like a God view of all of the things going on inside of the business. By all the things, I mean, this is going to make a lot more sense once you go through and adopt, and we onboard you in and you use the workshops, and this is a full operating system. But you're going to have all of your OKRs, right? Like, what am I focused on, right? So my mission is to blank. What you're focused on in terms of objectives and key results, right? So you have your objectives, you'll have it broken down by quarters, right? You'll have your key results that are associated, right? You'll have the tasks that are being worked on in terms of projects. You have all of your projects that are broken down, right? Everything that you kind of need, project timelines and management, all of the things in your team, right? Your director, all the things that are like high level, 20,000 foot, like, let me see what's quickly going on inside the business. That's all going to be here. And the cool thing is, like, this becomes functional and you can use it by just working through the implementation process. By actually adopting the OS starts to work, and we're going to do it in very small bite-sized chunks, right? Almost like one workshop at a time. And then eventually you have all of these things in there, right? So I'm gonna back out of this. I'm gonna go back into the main page here. I like to work from the main page, right? But you got your company dashboard, you got your task dashboard, which allows you to focus on, what you're doing, right? What you're doing today, what you're doing tomorrow, this month, this week, right? And it allows you to kind of align and allocate and focus appropriately, right? You have your projects dashboard, which is super cool. It's all of your active projects. When you go and you click on projects here, you can actually launch a new project. And the cool thing about this is it uses standardize templates, right? So when you go and click launch a new project, add a new project, it just duplicated the template, a project plan template, added it to the projects. You can now update the name of this project plan. Right? And now you can work through your project and actually set it up. Now, the cool thing about projects is it's super scalable. It allows you to manage what you're doing, and it allows you to manage who's doing what when, to be able to, again, track, right, the completion of the projects, working it through. I'm not going to go through an in-depth like how to implement and utilize projects here, because again, every single one of these separate databases, we're going to have a separate dedicated workshop and video on. So this is just going to, again, be high level, but just to show you that boot camp overview right there. We added a new project. Now it's here, right? Super cool, super flexible. We do that across the board. So, that's how it pretty much works across the board, all the way from team directed to feedback. But again, this is super, 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 super flexible. You can add a new team member. We give you all of the information to be able to plug it in really, really easily. It also associates with what they do and their roles and responsibilities, which is really cool from a directory view. And then it associates in terms of team roles and responsibilities and comp in the standardize section, which is how we're associating who's doing what, and then what's the value, and then how we optimize for headcount, right, when we're trying to balance budgets, which is super cool. So that dashboard, that's like a high level like work to be done. This is pretty much like once you're adopted, you're kind of up and running, all of the organized stuff is done. You've already worked through strategy. You're now implementing strategy. The moment in time in which we're implementing strategies, right? We're now then launching projects, and then we're managing tasks to completion. So what I want to do in order to get us there is talk through the organize, because the organize is the foundational work. That's all the stuff that needs to get done. It's kind of the boring work that people don't like to do, but it's definitely the foundational work that allows us to build a strong foundation, cast clear vision, get aligned in terms of our objectives, and then be able to focus on who's doing what, when, how, in order to be able to teach, train, equip the right individuals to get to the right outcomes, right? So it's very, very important, and it's important work to be done. There's some folks that say, especially in the bootstrapping or indie space, like, don't kill yourself working on all of this stuff. Like, don't get too far into strategy or high, pie in the sky type of stuff or conceptual stuff. Just focus on building product and shipping product, right? Like, build it, sell it, build it, sell it. We don't disagree with that totally. However, we really, really, really highly suggest that everybody starts and spends some time. And time doesn't mean like go kill yourself for a quarter, like maybe some middle market companies may do, right? A quarter of strategic planning for the next year. We mean like go spend a couple of days, like a week, take one of our workshops, right? Literally all of our launch kickoff workshops and initial workshops are designed to help you work through the organized section, right? So it's foundational information. It's really important to know what you're about, why you're doing what you're doing, who you're targeting, right? What it is that you're selling, what your product is, and all of that stuff gets set here. And then you take it and you start to implement it and utilize it when it comes time to strategize. Strategy is launching new ideas, new campaigns, new ways forward. Standardizing is taking what works from strategy and baking it into your financials and your business model. And then optimizing is making it better, right? Focusing in on marketing, figuring out what's working in terms of messaging, How are you managing your network of folks to be able to grow your, to be able to build your growth channels, right? Like what does your ad strategy look like in terms of performance of customer acquisition, right? Like all of the things that make the business a little bit more profitable over time and optimize the strategies that work to hit your standard financial outcomes, right? So again, there's a clean flow of why we do it the way that we do it. And that is, realistically the reason why. Now, getting into organize, we're going to work through business model. I'm actually going to show you in a separate video the lean canvas. I'm going to work through setting up the lean canvas with you. I'm going to work it through myself for Bootstrapper Capital to show you how to do it. We're also going to do the same for goals and objectives. Setting goals is extremely important because setting good goals means that you have attainable things to be able to pursue, to put strategies in place to then project plan through, to then take action and tasks to get done, right? If your goals are clear and your objectives are good, the rest of it is just a matter of action, right? So it's super important to be clear there. Company profile, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on with you, but it's something that you should do because as you start to onboard new partners or new employees or team members, having a simple company page where somebody can go and just quickly see, what is going on inside of the business, who you are, what you're about, is very, very helpful to getting folks up to speed. Business plan one pager is something that I'm not going to personally spend a ton of time with, but as a byproduct of your strategies, you will, because you're going to be able to here's what, the way that it plays out. So we're going to work together on the business model. We're going to jump into a lean canvas. I'm going to work this through. This is a separate workshop outside of this video, but once you jump from this one, you can jump into it. We're going to complete our lean canvas, right? We're going to then get into your goals and objectives. I want to set very clear goals for you guys, right? I want to work together to be able to set good goals. I want to have annualized goals. Like I want to cast it far into the future and then work it back. And then I want to have objectives to be able to achieve those goals from a yearly, quarterly, and monthly basis, right? That's going to be our cascading of like what we want and then how we're going to get there type of thing. And then it sets the foundational work for then us to run through an OKR workshop. And OKRs, it's different, right? Like a lot of folks think of OKRs and get confused sometimes as like KPIs or like metrics and milestones. Not what it is. We want to have our goals, then we want to have objectives, and then key results. And we want those things to cast out, and we want it to be able to cast it so that anybody that's inside of it can see where we're trying to go and then work within it. And then things like strategies come together. Then things like project plans to achieve the strategies come together, and associated with that is tasks, right? Tasks and projects, sometimes strategies, those can have things like metrics and KPIs, right? To make sure that you're moving the ball down the field in the right direction. Company OKRs, right? This is more vision casting. We want it to be aspirational, right? For all of the right reasons. Again, separate workshop, we'll talk through it, but we'll do that. Company culture map, that's something that you could definitely jump into on your own. We'll probably have workshops at some point, but it's not going to be like a dedicated workshop. It's important. Culture is extremely important, but because we're bootstrappers and the nature of where we are, stage of the business, this is more important for companies that are taking on employees and starting to ramp up in terms of headcount. Like initially, when you're just getting going, less important because it's going to be the outcome of like what people are doing that's going to create the culture. Definitely a worthwhile exercise if you're a founder though, because you can start to set parameters left and rights as to what you want it to be. So you have a better picture to then guide it through action, right? Same with alignment maps and the rest of everything here. Again, this is like mostly on your time type of stuff it's valuable. And I don't want to send the message that it's not valuable. It is very, very valuable. It's definitely stuff that we spend a ton of time with when we contract with advisory clients, right? Middle market companies, or when we're going through acquisitions, ourselves, and we need to cascade out vision for operators to run companies for us, right? So it's important there. But for us, in your situation as a bootstrapper and investpreneur, maybe a little bit overkill, but definitely spend some time. That brings us to the strategy section. I love strategy. I've been a chief strategy officer for a lot of middle market growth companies and also more kind of legacy companies as well. I think that strategy is oftentimes looked at different, right? It sometimes has the perspective of like pie in the sky, too much theory, not enough action. But when you do strategy right, what you're really doing is setting up execution. And when you set up good execution, what you're really doing is strategizing to an outcome. And having great strategy is probably the best way for an organization to actually achieve its goals, to get to the right level of outcome, because the execution is super tight, right? So I have a different perspective, I think, and I'd love to share mine. So we'll work through the strategy section. The main things about strategy here are the strategic plan, which I'm going to have a workshop that you can work through of like how to set up a strategic plan. Right. But again, everything's templated out and we'll work through it, teach, train, equipped, and you'll be able to get it done. No problem. Those strategic plans, those tie into the OKRs, right? It becomes the strategy for how we're achieving the objectives. And then we're going to create project plans, which again, we already went through project plans and we went through projects when we templated it out. We have project plans that can then help us achieve those strategic plans, those strategies, right? And sometimes there'll be a couple of project plans inside of a single strategy, right? So we'll scope everything out there, and those will be two separate workshops. Strategy retros are super cool. I think they're underutilized in organizations, especially earlier stage organizations. I'd love to see everybody in this community leverage strategy retros because they're super great opportunities to learn and pull out insights. It's literally just looking at what you just did. You spent a ton of time scoping out a strategy, putting a plan together, working through something, and executing. Most folks stop there and then they don't take the extra little oomph that it takes to just like learn. Strategy retros are all about learning what went right, what went wrong. What did we learn? What actions should we be taking moving forward? Who was great in this whole process, right? What do we want to do more of? Who do we want more of, right? Great growth opportunities for organizations. The other strategies that we have, these are just things that we have here and we want to kind of like get your feedback on, right? They're more templates in terms of putting together like checklists and or pre-made, like out of the box type of stuff. If you guys enjoy this, we're going to do more of them. Right now, we just have some of the initial like high level most commons that we put out there. And if you guys use them and it works well, so we got a website and a product launch, and then just a general product launch strategy. If you guys end up finding that you like it and enjoy it, we'll do more of them. And what we'll likely do is take a lot of the frameworks from our growth strategies and start to turn them into more plan-based frameworks that we can start to adopt. All right. But we don't want to do the work unless the work's worth doing. So that's strategy. Once we start to hit strategy, we're now launching, again, strategic plans and project plans that then feed this dashboard up here. So we're going to have a catalog of projects that are running, and every project is going to have tasks that are associated with them, with people that need to do those things. And then we're starting to track things on like a task basis and stuff starting to get done, right? So again, this is all foundational work and the organize, strategize. We're starting to do stuff and run. Now that we're up and running and we're doing things, now we got a business. So now we need to standardize. The first thing inside of standardize is the financial statements, right? So we have monthly, quarterly, and annual financials, and each one cascades into the next, right? So these are the annual financials. These are cascaded in based off of the quarterlies, which the quarterlies are then cascaded in based off of the monthlies, right? So what we need to do is just focus on making sure we keep track of our financials every month, report it through. It's great to have it here. If you already have QuickBooks, etc., this may feel like a little bit of overkill, but I promise you it's really not, because this is a great checks and balance for you. Like, especially if you have somebody else doing your books, or even if you're doing them yourself, it's a great thing to say, hey, I need to stop for a second, pause, and input this information and actually digest it and see where I am at, right? Especially as an owner or a founder of a business, right? It's kind of like that extra work that folks sometimes skip, but it gets you to really like digest the information, absorb it. And then this also becomes shareable, right? And it's kind of like something easier to share than like QuickBooks files and things of that nature. And right. So definitely promote the fact that you do it, even if you have other things that you're using, is what I'm saying. I think that there's value that comes from it. Subscription tracker. This is actually a fundamental thing. It seems pretty basic. It seems pretty simple, but again, simple works. We want you to inventory everything you're spending money on, and then we want to get it to the point of like who's using it, right? This only has the team member. I think we're going to track it to departments as well. So we'll probably add that in. And then it's going to allow you to keep track of the money that's going out, especially from just like a standardized perspective, so that you don't have subscription creep take place and things of that nature. It's like, we want you to focus on your costs, right? That comes back to team roles and responsibilities. So we want to, see who's on your team, what they're actually responsible for, right? So you can get a department and, role responsibility tie up, right? It would be, and then from there you have what the total comp is for that individual in terms of like what they actually look like from a financial perspective. The reality is your OpEx is mostly going to be your people, your ad budget, and your subscriptions, right? So these are two simple ways to do it. That actually brings us to the next, which is optimize. And actually in optimize is where the ad budget planner lives, right? It could live in standardize, but it's really more of an optimized thing. So I just want to flag it because it's probably going to be the other place that you're, spending money. So what we want you to do is actually plan out, again, like what you're spending money on, what you're expecting off of it, how you're targeting through. Again, this is going to be workshop based. It's also agency work that we can do with you, for you as well, if you want to contract and engage from the agency advisory side. Because this is the type of stuff that once you're at the point where you've done the other strategies, right, which we talked about a few of the launch strategies earlier in terms of strategy, but there's like a number of strategies that you can implement, including the 4 workshops that we work through to grow your business, right? We want you to get to like 30 to 100 plus customers. We want you to get profitable before you're paying for acquisition. So we want you to use the growth strategies to get to the point of profitability. And then once you're profitable, then we want to start to optimize by investing in acquisition, paid acquisition. And once we can get to the point where your paid acquisition is profitable, now you're in a really good position for us to be able to scale up in a sustainable fashion, right? Which is really important. So that's kind of the process that we're following here, right? I just wanted to highlight it. Getting back into the optimize, you got capital, which is your cap table, right? Again, bootstrappers, our cap tables are usually pretty simple. We wanted to highlight it so that we could talk about it, because we think that a lot of folks don't truly understand equity and equity management, especially prior to raising money. And we feel like if more folks understood equity management, cap table management, you probably would want to bootstrap longer. So we want to talk about it and highlight it, because I think awareness will shape perspective, which likely will shape outcomes of raising. Now, if you do want to raise, we have this whole pitching section. This is definitely a workshop in which we'll be running of how to pitch investors. We have templates that actually literally walk you through how to create a good pitch, 1-minute pitch, 3-minute pitch, right? We got a simple pitch deck creator, which you can follow. It's just good formatting of like what to put in your pitch deck. And then we got an investment memo of like what you should be including inside of your outreach to investors. All of these things, once completed, allows you to put yourself in a position where you can start to engage investors if it is something that you want to do from a capital side, right? The next thing about growth or optimization is marketing. This is really when you start to focus. By the time you get to this stage, the optimized stage, your business is pretty much built. A lot of your product work is pretty much done. You found product market fit, you have profitability. And what it's allowing you to do at this optimized stage is focus on the things that help you to move forward, right? That's why we're talking about things like capital, right? Your cap table, who's coming on your team, right? Maybe recruiting more folks, pitching investors, getting growth capital, marketing, where you get a little bit more strategic about product placement, brand voice, go to market strategies, paid acquisitions, right? Really actually get a marketing plan together because you know who your market is. You already have traction. You're no longer trying to figure it out. It's more an optimized thing to get more. How do you hit the more button type of stuff, right? So this is when your organization is past the point of traction and you've hit in a critical mass. Right. And then, once you do have investors, if you're working that relationship, we have like a little bit of a basic CRM. Again, inside the community, we have like 7,000 investors in a database that you can reach out to. We don't love it, right? We promote bootstrapping, but it's a thing, and we want to support you if you're on that journey. You got a basic CRM here. You'll start to use this when we do our 100 customer challenge. If you don't want to use our CRMs, you don't have to. It's just here because we also have realized that some folks just don't do anything. They'll just use inboxes and stuff. If you don't have anything, use this. If you're in the 100 client target persona channel, use this because it will force you, right, to do it and get it done accountably. If you already have something else, right, maybe you're using one of the CRMs that we gave you through our advisory relationships or whatever the case may be, or maybe you're on like a free HubSpot CRM system and you already know where you're going to build off of. That's cool. Just use that. And then, you could take this section and you can archive it. And then we already went through the ad planner, right? This is the basics of the operating system. The goal here is to work through organize first, right? Again, most of our workshops, Teach, Train, Equip You, will get you to finish your organize, review it with operating partners, review it with folks from the team, work through the strategies, which become our growth strategies, right? Like our growth strategy workshops. Standardize is the point in time in which you're really focusing on profitability. If you're going to be in an acquisition conversation with us, you're definitely going to spend time on standardize. If you already have a business and you want to get to a more profitable business, focusing on the financials and standardization is critically important to be able to optimize. And then it's all about optimizing and making things better. How do you get better marketing? How do you get better customer acquisition costs? Shooting back up here, that's when things like the business portfolio map actually come back into play, and you're figuring out what products to potentially bring to market to be able to further diversify, and you get back into now a strategy conversation, right? So it's very virtuous cycle in terms of adopting and utilizing and working this through, right? It's a very fluid flow. And then once it's done once, it's done pretty much, forever. And you're just now using it and managing it. You're onboarding new people in because you have this information. It's simple. You can quickly communicate to them, who needs to do what, get them right up to speed on the company, the organization. And this is good. This is good. We got middle market companies that use this, but at some point you're going to outgrow it. Now, the cool thing is because you're in this early, you'll adopt it earlier. It will be easier, right? It's way easier to set this up earlier on and then maintain it than to come in at 20 million bucks and have to set it up, right? Huge different lifts, right? So do the lift early and often, maintain it, customize it over time, get comfortable with this, make it your own. And then by the time you make it your own and you outgrow it, now you got resources. Maybe now you go and you build your own that makes sense for you, or you adopt something that's more scalable because you know exactly what it is that you need and will use in your business, right? The only other things I want to highlight here, the frameworks is huge. These are literally 50 frameworks or over 100 frameworks that we've put together that are broken down by different stages of your business and use cases, right? So you got product stage, idea, first users, early revenue growth. You also have use cases, right? Researching, strategizing, positioning, funneling, brand persona, operations, right? These are different things that they're used for. And then when it comes time to actually use them, Again, it shows you what it is, description of it, educates you, and then gives you some examples of like how to actually implement it. These are the things that most of our workshops are also based around. We just want to teach, train, equip you how to do this stuff because this is like how you build the business at the end of the day. So huge, 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 tremendous extra value here in the frameworks. We're only going to make this more and more. And then on the playbook side, that's when you're going to be able to get access to things like this, right? Like our simple profits playbook and like how to actually work through using this and optimizing it. So that is the Simple Profits operating system, right? High level. Hopefully you have a good understanding of like what it is, what it's used for, the flow, right? Of how we work through it. And then you know like why you want to get involved with these workshops so that you could teach, train, equip yourself, kind of in a guided manner. If you want to do it on your own, you're perfectly welcome to doing it. If you want to do it in the workshops, do it, community led as a cohort, work with more folks. Or if you want to work with our team one-on-one, we also have advisory programs where we'll come in. If you're in an acquisition offer with us, if we are in the process of acquiring you or we've made you an offer, we'll do this with you. Right? Like a part of the whole acquisition over the 12-month period or whatever the term of your contract is of your option, 12, 24, 36 plus, we will be implementing this with you and we'll be growing your business through this and to the point in time in which it makes sense for us to acquire you, right? We also, if you're not in an acquisition offer, we also have paid advisory where you could just pay to play and, we'll work through this with you on a one-to-one basis. Not the same price as what we charge middle market companies, of course, when we've done it in the past, right? We used to get like 6+ figures to be able to do this stuff, but still, there's a reasonable expense to it. So you got to be at the point where you're willing to allocate budget. If you don't have budget, that's perfectly okay. We designed this so that everybody has access and accessibility through the community and the workshops. All right. Look forward to hearing what you think. And we always want to make this better.